Hello, and welcome back to Fist Entertainment from Next Review, which is of 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is part of the James Bond collection on Blu-ray. We're talking about the plot of the film, the world's opinion of the film, my opinion of the film, and, of course, talking about the quality of the Blu-ray disc and giving the film a ranking. So, Agent 007, played by George Lazenby in his one and only James Bond film, and the adventuress Tracy, played by the late Diana Rigg, join forces to battle the evil Spectre organization in the treacherous Swiss Alps. But the group's powerful leader, Ernst Blofeld, is launching his most diabolical scheme yet. A germ warfare plot that could kill millions. Alright. On Her Majesty's Secret Service. What does the world think about this film? Among real Bond fans, but also among just casual watchers of the James Bond films, this is one of the main James Bond movies that is watched at random. So what that basically means is someone who's a Bond fan, or someone who is not a Bond fan but knows who James Bond is, and maybe watched the films when they were younger or in their young 20s or whatever, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is actually one of the few films that has the most rewatch value because people tend to return to this movie. It tends to be on the top of most fans' lists, and for a very good reason. Which comes in my opinion, and a little bit of trivia about the film as well, of course. This is the most faithful, with From Russia of Love probably being the second most faithful, adaptations of Ian Fleming's James Bond novel. Now, what's sad about that is that this was the third James Bond movie to be adapted from the very famous, what's known as the Spectre trilogy in the Fleming's novels, which started with Thunderball, with the middle installment being On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and the third being You Only Live Twice. Now, unlike You Only Live Twice, this is 100% faithful to the novel and source material. It is so beautifully done. This is probably one of the best examples of novel to screen or novel to script out there, really, on really many movies that have been based off of books. This is definitely one of the very best to actually do that. And this actually only had a one-off with Australian actor George Lazenby, which is very sad because he made a very excellent James Bond. Even today's standards, people consider him one of the very best actors to have played James Bond, although he only did it in one movie. Now, there's a very interesting story about how that happened, but we're not talking about that. I get trivia as small as I can. Now, the what could have been, I'll be very quick about that. If you made Thunderball, had James Bond meet Blofeld in that movie, which is very faithful. There's a few differences, but yeah, it's very faithful. So far, as I'm reading that book, On Her Majesty's Secret Service being made second, which is 100% faithful to the source material, and actually doing what they didn't do with You Only Live Twice, be 100% faithful to the novel. It could have made a really good era of James Bond in the 1960s because it would have been great. But they didn't do it. But they made this movie perfect. It is perfectly adapted from the source material. We see a very different side of James Bond in this movie. We see his emotional side for the very first time. It would be over 20 years until we would see it again. And that's pretty spectacular that they actually made the choice to do that in 1969, in which we're only 6 adventures into the film series. Found that very, very, very cool. That on the 6th film, they actually did bring out the real emotional side of James Bond into a film, and did it very, very, very well. Now let's talk about the Cadillac quality of the Blu-ray. The Blu-ray quality is very, very good in this, and what I really liked about this one is when they restored this movie, instead of trying to make it look like a modern colored movie, one of the things that always sticks out to me a lot about 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the color palette of the movie. This has that really, really good, bright, vivid colors that you would have in, you know, a non-James Bond 1960s film, where you have that really vibrant, vivid colors that you have in a old Technicolor film. It actually has a lot of that going on with this. The audio is very, very, very good. It makes very good use of all the speakers or whatever sound system you're using. Overall, I found myself, just like the rest of the world, returning to this film a lot, because if I'm in the mood for a random James Bond film that takes place in the 1960s, you know, an older one, the one I usually gravitate towards the most is On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I love the film. It is a very, very good film to me, and one of the best James Bond films of all time. Now let's talk about the ranking. This obviously, because it's perfect in every way, gets a 4-star rating. This is an absolute perfect movie. And I know that some people probably did not agree with me on the last 2 rankings, but I think I could say they definitely agree with me on this one. This definitely deserves a 4 stars ranking. And that's all I gotta say about 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you for the next review.